Good day, sir, as well as to our classmates. We are the Group 2, and together we will be discussing about the different forms of government. But before that, let me first give you a brief explanation of government and what are its different forms or types. And these aspects will be explained and discussed in today's video. What is government? It is the political system by which a country or community is administered and regulated. In short, it is the body with the power to make and enforce laws to control a country, land area, people, or organization. There are various forms of government, but we will only discuss the 9 common types of it in this video. These are the monarchy, aristocracy, democracy, totalitarian, authoritarian, communist, republican, parliamentary, and presidential. And now, we will proceed to the discussion of the topic. Please sit back and relax as you learn new ideas and information about the different forms of government.
Good morning everyone. I am Jose Vergel Bakang Asibo, BS Ed major in Social Studies. What I will discuss today is one of the 9 forms of government. It is called monarchy forms of government. What is monarchy forms of government? Monarchy is a political system in which supreme authority is vested in the monarch, an individual ruler who functions as head of state is born into the position. In other words, monarchy is undivided rule or absolute sovereignty by a single person. For example, the king or a queen. Unlike in the Philippines is a republic with a presidential form of government, wherein power is equally divided among its 3 branches: executive, legislative, and judiciary. So for now, there are 2 types of monarchies: the constitutional and absolute monarchy. So constitutional monarchies, these are the opposite of absolute monarchies, in which the monarch holds all power over the government and the people along with the United Kingdom. A few examples of modern constitutional monarchies include Canada, Sweden, and Japan. So when we say constitutional, which is a body established precedents according to which states or other hand organization is acknowledged to be governed. The constitutional allocates the rest of government's power to the legislature and judiciary. Like for example, the country of Britain, Belgium, Cambodia, Jordan, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Sweden, and Thailand. And when we say an absolute monarchy was a form of government in which an all-powerful king or queen rules a state. This form of government was popular in the Europe toward the end of the medieval period, all the way up to through the 18th century. Rulers in an absolute monarchy had a total control over the country. To be well understood, constitutional monarchies limit the monarch's power as outlined in a constitution, while absolute monarchies give a monarch unlimited power.
Aristocracy. Aristocracy is a form of government that places strength in hands of small, privileged ruling class, the aristocrats. The term derives from the Greek aristokratia, meaning the rule of the best. The highest class in certain societies, especially those holding hereditary titles or offices. Aristocracy is defined as ruling class made up of the people with a royal blood, or is government of collected people who are thought to be exceptional in some way, and therefore the most qualified to rule. An example of an aristocracy is Britain's royal family. Meaning, aristocracy is a form of government in which power is held by the nobility. A state governed by the aristocracy. In plural noun, it is called aristocracies. Okay, an example of an aristocracy is Britain's royal family. And another example of an aristocracy is the Kennedy family in the United States. So therefore, the definition of aristocracy is a group of people who feel they are above others.
While social aristocracy still exists in most countries today, they have little, if any, political influence. Instead, the long past golden age of aristocratic government, ruled by best typified by the aristocracies of the United Kingdom, Russia, and France. Once the most common form of government, allied aristocracies have ruled major countries including the United Kingdom, Russia, and France during their histories. The mentioned countries are one of the examples of ruling aristocratic governing country.
So by the way, my name is Angel May Endagan Kalupang, a BS Ed 2 major in Social Studies. Together with my partner, Miss Loida Tahidar, we are assigned to discuss to you one of the forms of government, which is democracy.
What is democracy?
The word democracy itself means rule by the people. Democracy is a form of government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised directly by them or by their elected agents under a free electoral system. And according to Abraham Lincoln, democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So Philippines is a democratic country, and as we all know, democracy is known as the finest form of government. Why? So it is the finest form of government. Why? Because democracy, as we all know, simply means we have freedom. We have the right to vote. We have the right to choose our leader. And people here in our country is very certain when it comes to the right. Why? Because it is an essential way as we are living in this country, because we can select who will be the best leader for us to hold and to help us. So democracy gives us the life of being free and happy, because it is the people's choice if who will be the leader that he or she might choose. Next, where was democracy first practiced? So, democracy was first practiced within tribes of hunter-gatherers in the prehistoric times. The transition to settle agricultural communities led to inequalities of wealth and power between and within the communities and hierarchical, non-democratic forms of social organization. Thousands of years later, in the 6th century BCE, a relatively democratic forms of government were introduced in the city of Athens by Cleisthenes.
Good day everyone, I am Loida M. Tahidar, and my assigned topic to discuss is the main points of democracy, the principles of democracy, as well as the characteristic of democracy. So in the main points of democracy, people elected government. So this means that elections are periodically held giving citizens the opportunity to cast their vote for the candidates from the political parties that they choose. Also, it is impossible for everyone to take a hand in running the country, right? That is why people elect representatives to act on their behalf. Second, there is freedom of speech. According to the Article 10 of the Human Rights Act, everyone has the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference by the public authority and regardless of frontiers. Number 3, there is no one-party government in the country. It means that there is multiple numbers of political party in the government. The number 4, right to give vote to elect the representatives. Yes, we have the right to elect a representative. Number 5, the common people considered as the primary source of political power. Yes, since the people are the basic source of power within a democracy, democracy is defined as the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And then the last one is the principles of social equality and respect for the individual within a community. So it means that all individuals within a specific society have equal rights, liberties, and status, possibly including civil rights, freedom of expression, and equal access to certain public goods and social services. Let's move on to the principles of democracy. So we have the first one is the Constitution. So this refers to the basic principles and laws of a nation, state, or social group that determines the power and duties of the government. It also refers to the rights being guaranteed to the people in it. The second one is free election. Yes, and only those eligible voters who can cast a vote. The number 3, government by consent of the people. Yes, this is the most fundamental concept of democracy. Government should secure the rights of the people. And the number 4, the majority rule. It is a decision rule that selects alternatives which have a majority that is more than half the votes. The number 5 is the rule of law. It is a political philosophy that all citizens and institutions within a country, state, or community are accountable to the same laws. The number 6 is the guarantees right and freedom. The number 7 is the change in the government. So events such as rebellion could trigger a change in the government. The number 8 is the open society. So this refers to the policy that everyone should be treated equally and you can choose whatever religion, practices, and morality that you want. The number 9 is political equality, and the number 10 is importance of public opinion. The number 11 is participation of people in the decision-making process, and the number 12 is the rule of opposition party. Now, let's move forward to the characteristic of democracy. So, the first one, we have citizen rule. So, a democratic government grants adult citizens for the right to elect representatives. It also establishes clear guidelines for election cycles and term limits. The second one is the majority rule and monitor. So this is an important part of the democracy system. I had also mentioned that one in the principles of democracy. And the number 3 is the individual rights. Since democracies value the protection of an individual right, these rights such as freedom of religion and equal protection under the law. So, when we talk about democracy, the first word that comes up into our mind is freedom, right? So it talks about the freedom rights being guaranteed to the people living in it. That's all.
Hello guys, I'm back again. So, today I I will be discussing to you the four types of democracy. What are the four types of democracy? First, we have the direct democracy. Second, the representative democracy. Third, the constitutional democracy. And lastly is the monitory democracy. So, how are we going to define these four types of democracy? So let's talk first the direct democracy, which is one of the four types of democracy. So direct democracy is sometimes called as the pure democracy because it is a form of democracy in which all laws and policies imposed by the governments are determined by the people themselves rather than by representatives who are being elected by the people. Next is representative democracy. Representative democracy is a type of democracy in which people elect officials to create laws and policies on their behalf. Next is constitutional democracy. So, in a constitutional democracy, the authority of the majority is limited by legal and institutional means so that the right of the individuals and minorities are respected. Lastly is the monitory democracy. Monitory democracy is a phase of democracy characterized by instruments of public monitoring and scrutinizing of government power. So that would be all about the democracy as one of the forms of government. Thank you and God bless.
Good day everyone. So for today's video, I'm going to discuss my assigned topic, which is all about the Republican government. The word republic comes from the Latin term res republic, which means public things, public matter, and public affair. This reflects the fact governing in republics is considered the right and the duty of the people as a whole, not the exclusive privilege of a small elite group of rulers. Our republic is a form of government in which the power is held by the people, but instead of ruling directly, the people loan their power to elected representatives who represent them and their interests. As what I've said, republic government, the power itself is held by the people. So as a citizen, or for example here in the Philippines, we are the citizen, we have the right to vote, to choose an individual para murul nato, and then nakapili nita to represent us, which is nag-rule nato. But then if kita the people or the citizen in that particular nation, naasad tayo right to re-elect one of the representatives if wala nila nabuhat ilahang assigned position or irresponsible sila in helping the people in that nation. So, a Republican government has its characteristic. First, the power of government is held by the people. Second, the people give power to leaders they elect to represent them and serve their interests. The third one is the representatives are responsible for helping all the people in the country, not just a few, but the majority. So, a Republican government has its advantages also. So, the first one is fairness. So, they believe that laws made by the representatives they elected would be fair. If their representatives did not make their laws, they could elect others who would. The second one is the common welfare. So, the laws would help everyone instead of one person or a few favored people. The third one is freedom and prosperity. People would have greater freedom and be able to live well. Since there are also the advantages of a republican government, there are also disadvantages. So the disadvantages of a republican system of government, so the republican system can be expensive to operate. Elections often require and consume a lot of resources to conduct. This can have an adverse effect to poorer countries, such as those countries which the progress of their economic is low. So next is laws made by legislature must pass through certain laid down processes without which they could not become laws. As such, conforming to the dictates of the Constitution can therefore be time consuming. The third one is in the republican system, there are sometimes many political parties contending for control of the high echelons of political power, which could lead to serious contentions.
Good day once again, sir. I am Rosewalan Imit Barot, and the form of government that I will discuss today is parliamentary government. So what is parliamentary government? It is a system of government having the real executive power vested on the cabinet composed of members of the legislature who are responsible to the legislator. In the parliamentary government, the Prime Minister holds the ruling power. In the parliamentary government, the chief and the other cabinet members are selected by the political party that holds a majority of seats in the legislative body. This majority party chooses a leader to be the Prime Minister or Chancellor and other high-ranking members, while the minority party forms the opposition and its job is to challenge the majority party. So, it is called the parliamentary government because all of the power is vested in the parliament. In the parliamentary government or system, the head of the government is chosen from the parliament and is often one of the most senior members or minister in parliament, which is where we get the term prime minister. Often in a parliamentary system, the country will have a head of state who is a ceremonial figure like the queen but does not engage in any legislative or politics. There are 8 different kinds of parliamentary government. These are the first one is the parliamentary republic. In this type of government, there is both a president and prime minister and a parliament acting as the highest legislative body. Finland operates under a parliamentary republic. The second is parliamentary democracy. In this form of government, voters choose representatives in regular elections. One of the largest parliamentary democracies is Australia. The next type of parliamentary government is the Federal Parliamentary Republic. In this form of government, the Prime Minister serves as the head of the government and he is chosen by the parliaments at the national and state levels, such as the system in Ethiopia. The fourth kind or type is the Federal Parliamentary Democracy. In this form of government, the party with the greatest representation controls the government and the office of the Prime Minister. In Canada, for example, the Parliament is made up of 3 parts. These are the Crown, the Senate, and the House of Commons. The fifth one is the self-governing parliamentary democracy. This is similar to a parliamentary democracy. The difference is that the nations using this form of government are often colonies of another larger country. The Cook Islands, for example, operate under a self-governing parliamentary democracy. The Cook Islands were a colony of New Zealand. The sixth is the parliamentary constitutional monarchy. In this form of government, a monarch serves as a ceremonial head of state. Their powers are limited. The real power in a parliamentary constitutional monarchy rests with the Prime Minister. The United Kingdom is the best example of this form of government. The next type is federal parliamentary constitutional monarchy. In the only instance of this government, Malaysia, a monarch serves as the head of state and a prime minister serves as the head of government. The monarch is a king who serves as the paramount ruler of the land. And the last kind or type of parliamentary government is parliamentary democratic dependency. In this form of government, the head of state appoints a governor to oversee the executive branch of a country that is dependent on the homeland. Bermuda is one example of a parliamentary democratic dependency. Its governor is not elected by voters but is appointed by the Queen of England. And that explains parliamentary government. Thank you and God bless.
Hi everyone, I am Angelo Isibuliano. I am the sixth reporter of the Forms of Government group, which I'm going to tackle the presidential government. What is presidential government? Who are in the presidential government? And what are the power that the presidential government have? The presidential government, or the single executive system, is a form of government which the head of the government is the president. And the presidential government, or the single executive system, is separated from the two branches, but they has an equal power. However, the president can influence the lawmaking body as well as the interpreting body, especially if the president has an ally in legislative and judiciary. And also, the president can intervene the national budget of the country. The president is elected indirectly or directly by the people. And the president does not make any laws. Instead, the president signs or vetoes the bill from the legislative branch. And also, the president has the power to give a pardon or an ultimate pardon to the accused person. So the president is the head of the government and acts as a head of the state and the commander-in-chief of all armed forces. But not only the president are in the presidential government. There's also the vice president and also the cabinet members that the president appointed. So, and also the president has the power to suspend the writ of habeas corpus if there's an invasion, rebellion, or even the president declared a martial law in a particular area, just like what our outgoing President Duterte did in 2017. The presidential government exists not only in the Philippines but also in South Korea, Indonesia, Nigeria, South American nations, and the US. That's all, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is April Rose A. Lihanyo, and my topic is all about communist government. So, before we start, let me define first what is communism. So, communism is a social and political ideologies that strive to create a classless society in which all property and wealth are communally owned instead of by individuals. So this means that there are no government or private property or currency, and the wealth is divided among citizens equally or according to individual needs. So many of communism's tenets derive from the work of German revolutionary Karl Marx. So who is Karl Marx? So Karl Marx, or Karl Heinrich Marx, was a German philosopher during the 19th century. He worked primarily in the realm of political philosophy and was a famous advocate for communism. However, Karl Marx identified two phases of communism that would be follow the predicted overthrow of capitalism. So the first one is the transitional system, in which the working class would control the government and economy, yet still find it necessary to pay people according to how long, hard, or well they work. And the second would be fully realized communism, a society without class divisions or government, in which the production and distribution of goods would be based upon the principles from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. So here are the advantages and disadvantages of communism. So the advantages of communism are people are equal. Second, every citizen can keep a job. Third, there is an internally stable economic system. Then fourth, strong social communities are established. Then fifth, competition doesn't exist. Sixth, efficient distribution of resources. So the disadvantage of communism. So the first one is the government own all businesses and property, the means of production. Then second, there is no freedom of speech. Then third, large or geographically broad population tend to be diverse, making it difficult to maintain a common goal or set of rules for shared effort under sources. Then third, central planning is difficult to achieve. Consumers' needs are not taken into consideration. Then next is productivity and efficiency are difficult to achieve without profit motive for the workers. Then it is also difficult to achieve internal balances between supply and demand without a price mechanism. And here are the places that are under the communist government. So first one is the China, second is the Cuba, then third is the Laos, and fourth and fifth is the Vietnam. And that's all my part. Thank you and God bless.
Good day, everyone. My name is Desimi Ermulis Diget, and my assigned topic is all about totalitarian government. What is a totalitarian government? So from the word totalitarian, it means total. It is having a total control over the lives of the people. So the government control all aspects of life, including the religion, speech, media, and arts. So a country who had a totalitarian government is headed by a dictators or one person only. So it has also one political party rule, including no individual privacy or freedom. And in history, Germany, the Soviet Union, Italy, and Spain are just examples of the countries who had been ruled by a dictator and who had been followed a totalitarian government. So at this juncture, I am going to discuss to you the criteria of a totalitarian regime. So we have 8 criteria of a totalitarian regimes. We have the indoctrination, propaganda, censorship, terror, charisma, one-party rule, economic control, and extreme nationalism. And we will discuss them one by one. First, we have indoctrination. So, indoctrination means is to teach the people to accept a system of beliefs without even questioning. So, it means that what the government wanted to it should be followed. Second, propaganda. It is using newspapers, magazines, radio, speeches, movies, or even media to give a one-sided message. So it means that it will allow a one-sided message so that the people will believe that he or she is right. Third is censorship. So the removal of anything objectionable to or critical of the ruling party. Next is terror. So the use of violence or the threat of violence to produce fear so that people will obey the state. So terror or terrorism is very common nowadays in other countries so that people will be afraid of and obey the state. Next is charisma. So it is a quality about a leader to make people eager to follow him or her. So it is not about having that charismatic beauty or having that charismatic attitude. So a leader in a totalitarian regime must have a charisma so that people will afraid of him. Next is one-party rule. So it is only one-party political is allowed to exist. So since it has a one-party rule only, so that one political party has the complete power to the state. Next is the economic control. So the economic control or the state will decide what will be made and what will be sold. So in an economic control, a totalitarian country don't have the freedom to decide what they wanted to import, what they wanted to export from the other country. And the last one, we have extreme nationalism. It is the belief by a group of people that their country is better than any other country. So extreme nationalism leads into war because people are more on protecting their country because they believe that their country is better than other country. Now, we have the types of totalitarian dictators or leaders. First, we have the fascist totalitarian. So, fascist totalitarian includes the Italy and Spain. So, it has a political movement that consists of strong centralized government headed by a powerful dictator. So, when we say fascist totalitarian, it emphasizes that the state over the individual. So the state are more powerful than individuals. So Nazi totalitarian is our next. It includes Germany. So it emphasizes about on racism. Next is communist totalitarian. It includes the USSR. So it is a collective ownership and control lies of the state planning. So, lastly, we have the militarist totalitarian. It includes Japan. So, since Japan in a history has a strong military foundation, so economy in Japan in the history supports in the increasing size and strength of military since they believe that protecting their country is making the best that they can. So, it is about also the extreme nationalism, having the extreme love of their country. Again, this is Desimi Ermulis Diget and my topic is totalitarian government. See you and goodbye.
Good morning everyone. By the way, I am Chanli Diget. So my topic assigned to me is all about the authoritarian government. So what is authoritarian government? It is a government that holds power and make policies without the consent of the people that it rules. It often uses their power to suppress dissent and exert control over the dissemination of information. It is the oldest type of government in the human history. It can come to power through force of arms and anointed successors to previous regimes. So, a form of government, authoritarian government is a form of government characterized by a strong central power of unlimited political freedoms. Individual freedoms are subordinate to the state. So now, let's go to the types of authoritarian government. So we have, but before that, let us know what is monarchy. So monarchy is an individual ruler who functions as head of a state, which is a king or a queen. Okay? So now, what are the types of authoritarian government? So we have absolute monarchy. Absolute monarchy is the ruler has the power to rule freely with no laws. So, absolute is a rule by a person or a queen or king whose actions are restricted neither by written law nor by custom. Ito ay uri ng monarkiya na ang kapangyarihan ng hari ay hindi nalilimitahan ng sinuman. So which is only one leader lang talaga ang makapag-decide what he or she want to have a rule. And the next one is constitutional monarchy. So it is the head of a state, shares the power legislative branch and must act within the parameters of the Constitution. So constitutional monarchy, a form of government in which a monarch acts as head of a state within the parameters of an institution. So it is a system of government with a monarch, but the monarch does not have absolute power. Why? Because the power of monarch ay nahahati sa tao. When the state is constitutional monarchy, it means wala sa hari o reyna ang buong kapangyarihan ng pamahalaan. It depends their kapunungan sa naturang bansa. And the next one is oligarchy. So what is oligarchy? Oligarchy is a regime where mass political power rests with a small segment of society. So, it is oligarchy, a form of government in which all the powers were given to a few persons in a dominant pleasure. It can also be said as government by a few people. So ito ay tumutukoy sa kapangyarihan ng pamahalaan na hawak ng maliit na grupo ng tao o one-party rule. Alright. So ano ba ang kaibahan ng tatlong monarchy? So we have absolute monarchy, which is only one leader lang talaga ang lahat ng kanyang rule ay masusunod lang dapat sa kanya ng sariling opinion. While the constitutional monarchy, which is constitutional, so it means lahat ng gusto mong maging rule sa inyong government ay kailangang nakabatay rin sa inyong members, sa iyong members. And the oligarchy, it is a group na, a small group of people. So that's all my report. Thank you and God bless everyone.
I know is not in her. She's a dime.